Unbelievable Radio presents The Center with your host, DC Radical One.
Greetings, friends, family, allies, and enemies. This is your host, DC Radical One, and you have entered the center. Shout out to our wonderful producer, Cindy Ashby. You can check us out on SoundCloud, YouTube, iTunes Podcast, Google Play, Stitcher, Spotify, and iHeartRadio at On the Waco Radio. Also, you can check us out at otwtube.com. That is otwtube.com. Let me greet the people that I see so far. Greetings to Real Talk with ZSJ. Greetings to Jasia. BB Toomey, to Brother Safo. BB48, Straight Black Pride, to Sister Farnessa. Long time no see. BB48, Sister Simone. BB48, Straight Black Pride, Brother Kevin. And greetings to Summer Renaissance. All right, so smaller chatting crowd than I expected. I guess we're going to have a late arriving crowd tonight, or everyone is watching NFL football and they're going to check us out after the fact. I'm not sure yet. So, as most of the people in here, I think know. And by the way, give me a 1 if y'all can hear me clearly. As most of the people in here would know, today is Dr. Khallid Abdul Muhammad Day. And so today I decided to bring in some of you all's favorite guests. You don't get to hear him a whole lot. So greetings to Danielle Davis. You don't get to hear him a whole lot here on places like YouTube. So decided to bring him in to celebrate the Dr. Khallid Abdul Muhammad Day. Also, let me make an announcement real quick. Because the brother has an event coming up on the 25th of this month. And let me see. Here we go. Saturday, January 25th, 3 p.m. at Terra Cafe. This is the Eventbrite page. You can go to the Eventbrite. The before day, brother, you got ripped off. The Eventbrite link will be in the description of this live stream. It's $25 at the door if you come in person to get the live stream of the event. It's also $25 plus the of course the Eventbrite fee. So you can check that out after the broadcast tonight. BB40 to Brother Jabril Africa, and greetings to the Brooklyn William and Mackey Junior History Club. Brother Ray. Greetings, brother. So I've just let you all know that again. That is Saturday, the 25th of this month at 3 p.m. You can go to the Eventbrite. The Eventbrite is in the description for this live stream. And, you know, I put it like this. You don't want to miss it. What the brother has to talk about can't even really be talked about too much here. So that lets you know how hot it is. So with no further ado, we'll see if Brother Genie is ready. Brother Genie, you ready? Yeah, it looks like he's ready. So we're going to bring him on. Greetings, brother. Uh-oh. Hold on. I cannot hear you. See if you sure you're not muted. Yeah, we're not gonna do background music, brother. All right, first of all, can y'all hear Brother Gene? All right. Okay, brother, I cannot hear you. Make sure. Make sure you're not muted, brother. Okay. Audience saying they can't hear you either. Let me see. All right, so the brother's gonna come out. He's gonna come back in. Sure. All right. All right, brother. You try it again. Okay. Still, I can't hear you. I'm not sure.
Praise Nat Turner, glory to Garvey. Long live the spirit of Dr. Khallid Abdul Muhammad.
Yes, sir, brother. Yeah, I heard you loud and clear. That's right. Praise Nat Turner, glory to Garvey. Long live the spirit of Dr. Khallid Abdul Muhammad. I'm gonna ask this question because it's obligatory. But how you doing, brother?
Hey man, this is a Dr. Khallid type of day. I'm doing fantastic. It's the 77th year anniversary of the birth of the great warrior Dr. Khallid Abdul Muhammad, and so I thought that it was the right place and time for me to be here. I also see somebody asking for the P.O. box for Straight Black Pride. I'm gonna go ahead and put that right here in the comments. And man, it just feels good, my brother. Feels good.
I'm glad you're doing well, brother. We talked earlier today. Some of those conversations, sometimes I wonder, like, should these be taped for posterity? Like Elijah Muhammad had his tape when they would be around the table. I forgot. I don't even remember what those chats were called, but yeah, people wouldn't even believe some of the things that we discuss. Well, first of all, before they sister Najee, first thing I want to do is, it's gonna sound weird, but I'm gonna tell a story. And the reason I'm gonna tell the story is because you all will see how it relates to Dr. Khallid after I tell the story. And Jeannie's heard this story before. So about 14 years ago, I was real sick, and I don't get sick. And I'm talking about like really sick. And so it got to the point, I don't know if you ever been so sick that you start thinking like, I haven't gotten better, and this might be it. And I couldn't hardly do anything. And so I said, I reached out to the creator or the ancestors or whoever at the time, and said, all right, here it is. Because I don't think it's not looking good. Don't think I'm gonna make it. I don't know why. I ain't never been this sick before. I said, if y'all show me the man that is closest to the spirit of Dr. Khallid Abdul Muhammad, I'm gonna roll with him till the wheels fall off. Just keep me afloat during that time, and that's my pledge. So eventually, a few days later, well, actually about a week later, I got sort of back to normal, at least normal enough to go to work. I still wasn't feeling good, but I was still here. And I don't even remember, but some type of way I came back across the brother stuff because I actually had seen him on YouTube a few years before that. And I'm like, man, who is this dude? And I'm gonna tell you how I saw you. You want to know how I saw you on YouTube, brother? You had some clip up. I was watching a video of Dr. Khallid Muhammad. And then after that went off, your stuff came up in the feed. So I always tell that story because it's true. And here we are. So when people, there's been a lot of people over the years who had the opportunity to pick up the mantle of Dr. Khallid, and some of them are doing great work and some of them are not. But I'll just say, from the ancestors' direction, this is the closest we got in the modern day. They don't make many brothers like this, so I'm gonna just tell you all to give him some clap emojis and show him some appreciation for the work that he does. Because I'm gonna be completely honest, this brother thinks about how can Black people win every day. He don't take no days off. If you call him at midnight, hey brother, what's going on, man? I'm trying to figure out how we gonna win. Call him at 8 a.m. Hey brother, what you doing? I was brushing my teeth, but while I was brushing my teeth, I was thinking about how we gonna win. You know what I'm saying? So we back in the day when they used to say, "Oh, his brother's a tireless worker for the race." This brother's a tireless worker for the race. So y'all give it up for the good brother, our brother Irritated Genie. All right, brother, that's your intro. How you feel now?
Hey man, I feel even better, but you gave me some humongous shoes to fill talking about Dr. Khallid Abdul Muhammad and putting me behind that. So man, I'm hope I'm gonna live up to that. I know we have a huge challenge as a race of people, and so I feel like I'm up for it. I feel like I'll say it even differently. I feel like Dr. Khallid Abdul Muhammad in his time was doing work that nobody else was doing like he was doing it. Like there's certain men that come about who is not that they're not other people that are contributing. They are. But their particular contribution and the way they contribute stands out different than other people. And so I would say that to say, in his time, representing authentic, hard-nosed Black manhood, I don't know that he had peers. And if he did, somebody would have to say them. Because I know with me at a certain age, once I hit adulthood, he was that image. I know my personal image in terms of warriors was Brother Kush, the Black Unifier. I worked with him, studied under him. So I witnessed a warlord face to face. But in terms of on a national scale, looking up on the screen, seeing and hearing, he doesn't have peers in terms of what he was doing for our people, what he represented. And so I'm glad to say that we're not forgetting him. That means that spirit is still living, because if that spirit wasn't still living, then we wouldn't be talking about this right now. You're not going to turn on the television and hear Dr. Khallid Abdul Muhammad a remembrance of the man he was and what he did. And I like to thank you, because that's one of the things that you always do. One of the things that I really respect about Brother Comrade. I'm so busy always trying to, and it's no excuse, but trying to do the next thing and fight the next battle and trying to figure out what to do. Sometimes I fall short and something might slip my mind. The idea of remembering the ancestors that mattered most, or that we consider the ones that mattered the most to our struggle in the way we see it from our view. This brother never forgets, and he always reminds us we have to do it. So this brother is very consistent with that, and he does a better job than I do. And I'm glad that we're aligned and that we're working together, because he keeps us on our toes. And so I think Dr. Khallid Abdul Muhammad, again, I say praise Nat Turner, glory to Garvey, and long live the spirit of Dr. Khallid Abdul Muhammad. I think that Dr. Khallid Abdul Muhammad appreciates the fact that we have not forgotten him, and that we keep his name alive and his work alive, that we're talking about the Black man and woman being together. I actually looked on, he was born January 12th, 1948. That will make him 77 years old today. And one of the things it said, and I really like this description, I think he would appreciate it. It says, after being removed from the NOI, he served as the national chairman of the New Black Panther Party until his death in 2001 from a brain aneurysm. But it's this sentence that I think he'd really appreciate. He advocated Black independence and stated a personal practice of anti-miscegenation. I like that. I like
yes,
that.
Sir.
Because that's so much in line with what we stand for in straight Black pride and what we teach, that the Black man should be with the Black woman. And it's not something you hear frequently. But he was a brother who, during his time and his height, was very clear about that. Probably the most outspoken on that.
Yeah, brother. And you saying, in this day and time, that's almost controversial, at least to say on the internet. Brothers I've seen, and I give him credit, I've seen Dr. Umar go on different podcasts and tell brothers that, and he gets more pushback from saying Black men should be with Black women than pretty much anything that I've seen anybody give him any pushback for. He gets more pushback from that than for the whole school situation and whatever's going on with that, which shows the mentality of our people and how we have been inundated with messages saying that Black men and Black women, shouldn't be together. And apparently the propaganda has been very effective in some circles. You have anything to add to that, brother?
No, I just think that I think we're in a time, we've been having deep discussions figuring out how things happen. And I think it's fair to say I agree with you in terms of what you're saying, how the pushback, and this is no excuse. I don't know that the world has ever seen a war waged on all the inhabitants. No, let me say it differently. I can definitively say the world has never seen a war waged on the inhabitants of the entire planet as intensely and broadly as what the world is facing today. What the
small
hats, what the hats are doing is the best, most sophisticated, most expansive, and best detail-oriented assault of the world population ever attempted by any group in the history of this planet. We've never seen anything like this. The reason I say that, because it goes down to the level of orchestrated efforts to make Black men not want to be with Black women and vice versa. In other words, I'm not saying that we don't have our own issues. I'm saying I've actually studied over the years and lectured on these issues, but very recently it's crystallizing in my mind what they've done. It's something of a wonder, because the vast majority of the things that, and we talked about this earlier, that I teach about and have been teaching, in fact, not the vast majority, all of them, every single thing that I've been teaching our people about what's happening to Black people from outside forces, I'm seeing now they almost match what the hats are doing to every group. I just never cared about any other group, so it wasn't of any interest for me to commentate. I took it very personally because I'm an African and I want to save my people. And it is personal as an African, but it's not personal from their perspective. any more than what they're doing to anybody else. And I say that to say, and I think Dr. Khallid Abdul Muhammad would appreciate this conversation, because we got to remember, who was it that was instrumental in him not being in the Nation of Islam? Well,
right.
It was his speech at King College where he was talking about the hats that led to his being put out of the nation. So his suspension and then ultimate expulsion from the NOI. Now we should really think about that, because everything he said was true, but something he said about them became such an issue in the organization he was in that they were trying to destroy, that it got him put out. I'm gonna say that again. This group was publicly, openly trying to destroy the Nation of Islam. In defense of the Nation of Islam and its leadership, he attacked their behavior, the hats. And yet, for what he said about the hats, he was suspended from the nation, the very people he was trying to protect. So if nothing else, that shows us that this group has been attacking most of our leaders as far back as Baba Garvey. In fact, they're responsible for being the business and the enterprise of the transatlantic slave trade. So really, even us being brought here, hats, much less, like we said, Baba Garvey, who ran them out of the country, had them deported. All of these things, the subjugation of African people have been, we see as white in general, but they're white. But in specific, they have been intimately involved in the oppression and undermining of Black people in the Americas. And Dr. Khallid Abdul Muhammad used to tell us that. He was vocal about that. He was fighting them. He had very colorful words in ways to speak about them. Oh, hook nose, bagel eating, lox eating, Johnny come lately, just crawled out of the caves and hills of Europe, wanna be. You know, he would give us a way to view them, and it was colorful, and it helped us actually contextualize who they really were. That they weren't authentic in who they say they were, and that they were still in our identity. He was amazing. I would say, and correct me if I'm wrong, he was probably the major player in articulating to Black people that this group has stolen our identity, or at least one of the top three. You think that would be a fair statement?
Yes, sir. While you were saying it, I'm trying to think of anyone else that really put it, because other people may have said, well, we're really these people, we really that people, so forth, so on. But nobody openly said, these people are the reason why you're not known as this or that. Or, and the reason, you know, after secret relationship books came out, these people are the reason, like you said, that we even here. I mean, when it comes to attacking the unattackable, assailing the inassailable, Dr. Khallid was by far and away on the forefront of that, because the things he was saying then, yeah, I mean, you might get locked up now. You know, that's how much, because you think about it, he was censored by Congress for speech, like in a country which claims that the First Amendment is in effect and that everyone has First Amendment rights, especially those people who were actually born here and citizens of America. All the things that Congress could have been working on, somebody thought it was worth their time to condemn Dr. Khallid Abdul Muhammad, and I know he took that as a badge of honor. That means that he was doing his work was so impactful that the whole government had to take a pause and talk bad about him in essence for a session.
That's right. It was a hat who decided to bring it before Congress. And the deep thing about it was that, wait a minute, was that Massey that said he voted against it? It might not have been. I got to look and see, because there was one congressman who said he didn't agree with the speech, but that we should never censor someone. I got to look. I don't know if Massey was in office back then. I got to look and see. But one congressman said no. And of course, Dr. Cynthia McKinney voted against that. But the interesting thing, and it kind of goes to the world we live in today. If we think about it, in that statement that he was saying that Congress censored him for, he wasn't talking about white folks in general.
Right.
He was talking about this specific group, but there weren't enough of those specific group in Congress to effectively give a censor. So that means the American citizens who were in Congress, who weren't part of this group, would have to agree to vote against their own First Amendment in order for that censor to go through, which them not realizing what they were doing then, because it was doing it to a black man. It's always fun to do it to a black man until it comes back around to you. They were actually setting the stones in place to build the destruction of their own constitution.
Mm. Yeah, brother. As you were saying it, I was thinking it. Yeah, they didn't even realize that you really, because American government and especially jurisprudence and lawmaking is built off of precedent. So once somebody sets the precedent that you can't say XYZ, and in this case, you can't say XYZ by a specific group of people, then they can always use that precedent later on. And sometimes, we've seen stuff where it's legislated and the original precedent was 100 years ago. And people say, well, in 1873, such and such and such. And people have to go look it up in the law book, because they're like, I don't even know if this person's telling the truth. That's how far back the stuff goes. So yeah, right. As you said it, I'm just thinking that I wanted to ask you, do you happen to remember who brought that bill? Because I was going to ask, was it Peter King? Because I know he was instrumental in stopping the NOI from doing.
Right.
You say it wasn't?
It wasn't Peter King. Let me see if I can see his name. Let me see if I see it here. You can go ahead and talk while I'm looking. I'll see if I can find his name.
Okay.
But he was definitely a hat, though. I just don't remember his name. Let me see.
Okay, because for those that don't know, Peter King was instrumental in stopping the nation, the NOI, back in, I guess, the early 90s from getting paid government contracts to patrol various black communities where they were fighting against the drug trade and making a difference. It's kind of, I guess, if you're not old enough, it's kind of hard to remember how bad the crack epidemic was in certain places in America. And depending on what I found out talking to people later on, is depending on where you were, the crack epidemic was at different stages for different parts of the country. So when it hit LA, that was before it hit DC, but DC wasn't too far after that. But places like Miami and New York, because those are port cities, it was also hitting them hard. And then, talking to people, literally 5-10 years later, there's places in the South where it hit, where it had already done the damage, in major cities, but people in the South now all of a sudden they're trying to be big time dealers and things like that. Just like the whole gang culture hit the West Coast, and next thing you know, people in Nebraska shooting each other, as Ice Cube said, dying for a street that they never heard of. That's so, right. Yeah, I just want to give people a little bit of that history.
His name was Lantos. It was Lantos.
Okay. Yeah, I don't remember that person. Oh, let me tell the people real quick. At about 9:30, that's when we'll open up for questions from the audience. So the easiest way to make sure your question is read is to leave a super chat. The super chats will be read first, and then the other questions will be addressed after that. So let me ask you now, brother, how much time do you have for us tonight?
I think we can go to like you said, if it's 9:30, and then we do the question and answer, and then we can wrap it up.
Okay. All right. So yeah. So speaking of Dr. Khallid, I want to talk about some brothers who very much are in the vein of Dr. Khallid, to the point of one of them physically resembling him. I just wanted to ask you about the AES and the work that's going on in the Sahel with Baba Goita and Chiani, and of course the good brother Ibrahim Traore. Just talk about your feelings about that, brother.
I'll say it this way. I've never seen a situation in America where if you get locked in the bird cage of America, just looking at the condition of America and black people, and really everybody, particularly for black people in America, I've never seen it this grim. And it has a lot to do with the world condition and what that means for us. But the brightest spot in the universe right now in my life, in terms of outlook that's positive and progressive, is what I think is the most promising opportunity in my 51 years of living. I just turned 51 December 2nd. What's happening in the AES with, like you said, Baba, in Mali with Baba Goita, in Burkina Faso with Baba Traore, and in Niger with Baba Chiani. These three brothers, strong black men, all military, have taken over their nations, are turning the countries around, ending corruption, militarily running it's the French and the extensions of the French, who these sick black folks that are part of these Islamic extremist groups that are coming in and killing black people. They're running them out. They're killing them. They're stopping them from coming in and killing and invading and terrorizing the nations. And it's a war. I mean, it's not easy, and they're working together. Three nations that are connected to one another, working together in the interest of putting the French out. They put the French armies out. They've taken back control of their economies. They've partnered with the Federation, the Russian Federation. So they now have a superpower that they're working with that can help them support staying alive, because we've had a lot of good African leaders come. We just have had so many of them that were murdered because the interests of the West would pay, and we would have people that would come and take the lives of them. So far, I can't count. I think it's over 12. It might be 20. I don't know how many coups they've had to try to kill Baba Ibrahim Traore in Burkina Faso, but they've all been unsuccessful. It's almost like every week or two we find out. I mean, these are elaborate efforts to try to get rid of them, because one, the infighting and the jealousy and envy our people are operating with, and two, the money that's being fueled in from Western interests to say, hey, get rid of these people, because the threat is what Dr. John Henry Clark told us. He said, all we have to do is see one African nation do the right thing. We are rhythmic people. We'll start following behind, and the next thing you know, it'll be an explosion in Africa. Well, who would have ever thought that we would have had three brothers in nations right next to each other, connected, so they can help support one another in military issues and economics, who would be doing it at the same time? It's one of the best. I've never seen anything like. It's a large, if we talk about the square miles of those three nations together and what their empirical, because I'm saying they're almost like an empire because they're working together as one entity. Even though they're three separate nations, they're working together as one entity. If you take those three together, the land mass and what they're doing and how they're developing their nations in the direction that they're headed, to me, it's the most promising moment in my life, phenomenon in my life of where we can go as African people. Because, and this is going to be something I'm going to say, but I've been saying this to people, and I really believe this. We have been such fighters in the West. I mean, we've been some fighters that we don't really understand that we live under oppression. We know that it's an oppressive country, but we're so used to living in a state of oppression. Actual sovereignty doesn't really register to us. We've been living in the stomach of a pig and fighting for sovereignty within that stomach, and to some degree have achieved it from time to time on some level, moderate level, that it seems like if we could just get our own space in the stomach of this pig, we'll be free. Even to the point where some of our people have conditioned themselves to believe that they're the lung of a pig. You know, they're not Africans no more. They Indians or something. You know, we've conditioned ourselves to believe that we're part of this pig, or at least pig land. You know, we live in the pig pen. And so we said we was always in a pig pen. We were born in a pig pen. No. But for the first time, what I'm seeing is actual sovereignty, which means it's not just that you have African nations that, like Baba Magufuli in Tanzania, who was doing a great job of developing the nation, ending corruption and moving towards development and cohesion. But he was going to the next level. This is the next level. These guys have military, where if you decide to invade, we will blow you away. That's another level. Because it means it's not up to any whim. They can't just send somebody in to try to do harm to you. We'll do harm to them. We're moving towards real, true, and living sovereignty, which means the language that they're going to speak, they can choose for themselves. The economics, they have enough wealth in those countries that if they put the West out effectively, which they've been doing, and they galvanize their resources and put them on the market, within the next 10 years, these places could literally, I'm not exaggerating, they have enough gold, literally some of the streets can be paved in gold. Like walking to the palace of the king, literally, it could be a gold strip, solid gold leading up to the palace of the king. It's doable and achievable in our lifetime. I mean, not even lifetime, in the next 10 years. What we're seeing in the AES, in short answer to what you're saying, is the most promising potential for what the African continent could be if we could roll the potential of that region out onto the rest of the African continent.
Yeah, the thing I wanted to second with what you're saying, brother, is I think the piece we've been missing for a while is the importance of military infrastructure and military technology. When you really, like, we attribute what happened, the downfall of Africa, to a lot of things. People talk about disunity and religion and, you know, all these things. But what we never talk about is in ancient times, African people had premier militaries. And you can go back to some of the wars in ancient Kemet and how they went not only did they push the people out, but then they followed them all up into what they call the Levant and took that over in places that are now Syria and Israel and all that stuff. All of that was under black rulership. And when we lost the advantage in military technology, we see the outcome. So the fact that it's military men who are militarily trained and who are getting that technology from, as you said, from the Russian Federation, I think that's what makes this situation different. And a lot of our people are just finding out about Brother Traore and Brother Chiani and Brother Goita. I don't think they really realize how important that part is. Let me ask you this question. How much of a threat is the AES to the plans of, we'll just use the term globalist, you know what I'm talking about, to the plans of the globalists in a world where most of the European nations are declining in population, declining in economics, largely dependent on the United States for military. And when you look in Africa, the opposite of all those things seem to be taking place. How much of a threat is the unification of even, let's say, 6 or 7 more countries, African countries? How much of a threat is that to the plans of the globalists?
Okay, just these 3 countries alone is, out of a 10, it's a 5. If you add 6 more nations to these 3, so you're talking about, let's say 10 nations on the African continent, and let's say they were all right there in the same region, so they were connected. You're talking about the potential. The potential is that the domino effect would occur. And now what would happen is the so-called globalists, they would have the biggest threat that they've ever faced. But there's a reason. There's a reason. In my estimation, in order for that to happen, those areas in Africa would have to have African people in America defending their political rights to freedom and sovereignty and lobbying and working on their behalf to keep the vipers and the vultures out of doing that. Not just America, Africans internationally would have to be working and lobbying and active in protecting Africa's interests and development, such that it wouldn't be an easy job and task to go and disrupt what they're doing there. And if that happened, literally, it would be, I thought that Russia was the final solution and hope for the world. And again, I don't look to white folks to be saviors. I'm just looking at the world as it is. Russia right now is holding the line for the entire planet against the globalism. Even as much as globalism is part of what they're doing, some aspects of what they're doing, but for the most part, they're trying to remain a sovereign nation. But with what's happening in the AES and the relationship with the Federation, you would literally have Russia ruling the North in the Eastern Hemisphere and Africa ruling the South. And then it depends on what would happen in the East. The likelihood is that they would be inclined to join with Russia and Africa in an alliance, simply because it would be to their interest, because this same group is wiping them out right now. It would be cataclysmic for them. If 10 nations came together like this, it would be cataclysmic. One last reason I want to say. It's not just that we will be lobbying on their behalf. I'm going to say something that let me say this. it's obvious that there are other forces that understand what's happening on the planet. If we see the guy from Poland today, I forget his name. He's running. He now decided he's going to run for the prime minister of Poland. He's the one that would go up and put out the Kanara. Oh, no, it's not Kanara. What is it called? What is the thing that they light up? What's that candle called? You know what I'm talking about?
I know what you're talking about, but I can't remember. But I do know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Well, he went with a fire extinguisher in Parliament and put it out. So he's running for office now, and he stated publicly, this particular group, your time is up in ruling over the world. Those of you in the main country and those of you in the U.S., your time is up. So I'm saying that to say there are people that do understand it, but I'm gonna be honest. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that nobody articulates it as simply and as fully that I've met yet. It may be happening, but I haven't met anyone that articulates it. Well, let me not even put it on just black people. Myself, I'm going to put it on myself. I don't think what's happening on a global basis is being presented to people in a simple, simplistic, expansive way that people in leadership can understand it and then know what they have to do. Even as they're worrying about their national interests, they'll have a better understanding of when we say global interest, what that really means.
Right.
So with us being here, not only lobbying on their behalf, but being able to bring our experience in dealing with these forces to the region to say, here's the things you got to worry about, and explain in a tangible way, here are things you need to understand, even as much as things like Christianity, Islam. Those are the primary religions that our people are believing in over there. Here's the danger of holding on to those as your primary source for your religious systems. In each case, there's a group that controls that religion that's not black. So whether you like it or not, politically, you are subservient and a slave to another group when you hold on to those. You need something authentic of your own to put on the highest level. And then if you have those underneath, that's fine. But we need something that galvanizes and binds us together spiritually such that we are locked in with our interests that's higher than what we have there. And as Africans in this hemisphere, we have a better understanding of it because of the process of what we've gone through to be forced to do this before the entire continent was. So we know indoctrination, how it works, what it does, and how to wrap yourselves out of it and try to get out of it. Like, we've gone through this process. We can bring that as tangible experience to our brothers and sisters there and help them in their journey for sovereignty to not just have physical sovereignty, but spiritual and intellectual sovereignty. We've done a lot of the legwork and study and research and things of that nature. We put that together in our longing for our African identity that can now be leveraged from the point of where it was used to help us find ourselves and our identity. We can now help our African brothers and sisters on the continent find their reality, which is their identity too, but it's their reality because they're still there on the ground, if that makes sense.
Yeah, brother, that makes sense. And even with more recent attacks, I don't think that because they don't see these people, I think it hits them different than it hits us. Like, in a way, it hits us the same way. Like when I hear people talk about feminism, it's like, oh man, feminism is doing this or that. No one actually says, okay, here are the people who are at the root of modern feminism. Here is Bella Abzug. Here is Gloria Steinem, who's connected with the CIA. Here, and so forth and so on down the line. And then here are their connections with various black people. I know when I did the research for my Dr. Welsing lecture, it became so obvious that I thought maybe, and I'm, you've done research before, you started thinking, is this my bias leading me to this conclusion? Right? Or is this just so obvious and it's been the information that's been sitting here waiting for somebody to say something and nobody ever bothered to look and connect the dots? So even with modern things that can derail your sovereignty because they are inside corrosive force, I think we have the experience and the information to be able to give them to say, this isn't a major problem yet. However, you need to nip it in the bud now, because you don't want to be like Korea. You don't want to be like Japan, where, these places where the men and women not getting along and they not reproducing. And next thing you know, your economy and your population is collapsing. And even while it's collapsing, the women are still saying, they're still trying to have, in Korea, they're still trying to have a movement of women to not interact with men, while the country is literally collapsing. You see what I'm saying? And so that just shows you how dangerous it is. That you could, because of following this ideology, they can collapse their own society and don't even have the logical ability to say, you know what, maybe we've gone too far.
And I mean, we just had this discussion, so we kind of sharing a little bit, but this group that we're talking about has literally created what we call a black hole. The black hole just sucks everything into it and absorbs and pulls everything in. In terms of people of the planet, and again, a lot of these people are not our friends. I'm not even talking about it from our relationship with them. I'm talking about the war that's being waged on the planet today. The morals and ethics and modus operandi of how people operate, the way people live life, what people consider civilization. Some people will call it nuclear family, but just culture, how people do things, how they view the world. A girl grows up to be a woman. A boy grows up to be a man. Basic, fundamental, foundational reality of people and culture. This group has managed to create a black hole that is sucking up all that we knew as normal and foundational and replacing it with, so it's like, if you think of it this way, who we are as black people, the way we do things on a natural, standard, normal basis, and then the things that we see being pushed out here in the world today. It's like they've taken a black hole and sucked in everything that we took as the way things are supposed to be. And the only thing is left is the stuff they're pushing, which means if we don't have anything inside that we believe in, then there's nothing to fight this stuff that's out here with, because that's the only thing that's out here. So we had songs, Sugar Pie, Honey Bun, You Know That I Love You. The idea of a man and woman with a relationship, that's an African Asar and a set. It's our culture. When they've sucked that away into the black hole and replaced it with B's, hoes, and N-words. So what's happening, it's difficult to manufacture love and a culture of respect and dignity among black men and black women and appreciation with one another when the moment the little boy comes out of the womb, he's an N-word. And the female resents him. The moment the little girl comes out of her womb, her own men call her B's and hoes. So that's when, from the moment she's born. So the normalcy has been put in a black hole where you got to go find it and go to the black hole, which separates you from the society. In order to get normalcy in a regular world environment, you got to go into the black hole. it's very effective what they've done. And the only thing that they've left is dysfunction. So the entire world is not just black people. Everybody's becoming dysfunctional. And because no one wants to say, hey, there's a huge vacuum that's been created by this group that's killing and destroying our morality, let's go deal with this group. It's very effective, because in the absence of that, all you're left with is all of this different stuff, which prevents there from being a culture of normal behavior. Like, you don't have a normal culture where people get around each other and do normal stuff. It's not normal. It's going to be some weirdo looking young person, pants hanging off their behind, green or purple hair, lip like piercings everywhere, earring piercings everywhere, eye earrings. Like, they're going to be bizarre. They're not going to be African-like. They're going to be something different, because their culture is locked in this black hole that we represent, the people who are going into that hole and trying to preserve the identity of our people. The stuff Dr. Khallid, it's hard to even get someone who wasn't around during Dr. Khalid's time to be able to feel the energy of a Dr. Khallid Abdul Muhammad, because the sense of our blackness and the hostility coming from white folks being the adversary, that whole construct by this other group has been taken into the black hole. Now everybody is everybody, and people are people, and our people have no sense of direction or purpose. Like, it's not just our people. I'm looking at it, and tell me, because I'm going on, tell me if what I'm saying is making sense, or am I talking and sounding crazy to people, and it's over or under or not resonating with people about what's reality.
Well, brother, I'll say it like this. I related to the music because you went way back, but when you were talking about that, I started thinking about, I don't know if you remember when D'Angelo made Lady, and D'Angelo looked like he was about to start rapping. If you ever seen like his first video, because he had the braids and he had the leather jacket, and I remember at the time, my girl at the time was like, "What he about to do?" And I said, "I don't know. I guess he about to rap." And then he sat down, started playing the piano and singing or whatever. And he made Brown Sugar, which had a double meaning. And then he came back with Lady, which, that was my jam back in the day. And like that, we don't think about it now, but that neo soul movement really kind of kept us from just falling completely in the void of N-word and B's and H's like you see now. Like there are female artists that I've seen that they sing R&B, but they N-word and B-word in R&B, and I'm listening. I was like, okay, the melody sounds kind of like a love song, but the lyrics don't match the spirit. And I don't want to see a nice looking sister like this using this type of language. Like, what is happening right now? And I told somebody, I said, what's wild is that some of the best music I've heard, as far as something close to R&B, something close to love music, as far as the women anyway, most of them are from racially ambiguous women. And some of the dudes, they are kind of gender ambiguous. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, okay, this dude is singing about love or whatever, but is this like a Luther Vandross thing where he's secretly singing to another man? Like, what? You don't even know. And that's just kind of the state of the culture from a at least from a musical perspective, or entertainment perspective. And when that's what's put out before the young people, you can't blame the young people for being confused. Let me say real quick to those that came in, welcome to the center. I'm your host, DC Radical One. You can follow me on Instagram at dc.radical1, on Twitter at dc_radical_one, on OTW2, which is a Black-owned free speech platform at DC Radical 1. And you can donate via Cash App at $DC Radical 1. You can email me at dc.radical_1 at protonmail.com. Also, let me say that Brother Genie is having an event at Terra Cafe in Baltimore.
Let me ask you a question. Do you have the flyer so you can show them the actual flyer?
I just have the page up. I don't have the flyer.
Oh, okay.
I was going to say, if you had a flyer, you want to put it up? You have access to it?
I'm trying. If I put it in the post in the comment, will you be able to take it and then put it up?
I think if you put it in a private chat, maybe I'll be able to take it from there. You can try that.
How do you put it in a private chat?
Where it says private chat.
No, I'm saying it doesn't seem like you can add a picture.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, I've never tried that. Brother, You Got Ripped Off has put the link for the Eventbrite tickets in the comments for those who might be interested. And I see you super chat. Brother, You Got Ripped Off. We'll get to you shortly. I'll save it for everybody else's. Next, I'm trying to think. Oh, yeah. Let's deal with the obvious, the elephant in the room. 8 days from now, we're going to have a new old president. Mr. Trump is back. I'll just ask you, what do you think his return means for Black people in America for the next 4 years?
Okay, I'm going to answer this as precisely as I can. The only relevant position Black people can take is to have our own agenda, in my opinion, linked to our own direction in this country, linking it to what we see happening in the AES and potentially what could be happening in Haiti. In other words, I don't see any relevance for anything for Black people in this country based upon white individual A, B, or C in office. Everything now, that group we're talking about, they're in power and they're waging relentless warfare against the people of the planet. I don't think it matters if it's Trump or anybody else in that position. It's the same relentless. They're putting fires and burning down towns with what are those things called? Direct energy weapons. They're using direct energy weapons in LA now. They're burning them down. And they don't care. Like the kind of genocide and assault that they're committing now against this society, what they did in North Carolina with those sending the weather, they're using weather warfare now. They're sending hurricanes to the mountains of North Carolina. Hurricanes don't go there. They don't have hurricanes. They sent them there. This devastation that they're intentionally wreaking, we haven't seen anything yet. The only thing Black people can do is have our own agenda and organize. And it would behoove us to begin to wisely begin to identify the problem figures, because as this country begins to get more and more under siege and Trump is in the office and head, anything that's going bad, the natural tendency for white folks is to attack Black people. So we're being set up to be the food on the plate, lest we are the ones articulating this is who the problem is. And we got to have our own agenda of what we're going to do. We have to be getting passports. We got to be able to move and go. There's going to be a lot. There'll be a lot of people as this thing gets worse that are going to decide, you know what, it's time for me to get out of here. The only thing is, to be honest with you, running is not going to help you for long. You can leave and go somewhere else and try to do something. But the truth of it is, this group that's wrecking this country, their premise and platform is to ruin the entire planet. So you want to go run to Africa? Where you gonna go? Unless you're going to the AES. Every place else, the food that they were growing, they're not gonna be able to grow much longer unless they fight back. Like everywhere you go, there's a war, there's a fight. We have to get battle prepped for the reality of the world that we live in today. We don't live in yesterday's world. We don't live in, let me go to school, get my education. I want to be this as occupation. I'm going to do it for 20 years and I'm retired. We're in a world war on a level we've never seen before. And it really doesn't matter that much for Black people, whether it was Trump. He was better than her being there just because of the degeneracy that she represents, and the mad whoredom that she represents. But other than that, we're going to have to fend for ourselves as Black people. We're going to have to know how to maneuver. That was a long answer.
No, brother, that was on time. I said the same thing. I looked at it and I wanted to see, but when I started seeing the people that he is surrounding himself with, there's some good and some bad. There seems to be a lot more bad than good. Some of the people, like what's his name? Getz. Is that his name? The one
Gates.
that they Gates. Him not being in a position, I mean, that was excellent. I'm just being completely honest. Because he was the one that started talking about assaulting Africa, assaulting at least one of the countries in the AES. I don't know if it was more than one. And so having it, he's talking about Niger. Yeah. Having him off the board as far as that goes is good. I think that we might have to pay attention to see where he pops up, because he may end up, for all we know, he may end up working with Eric Prince. Talk a little bit about Eric Prince and what he said. I guess it was the middle of last year, and some of these other Europeans, what they've been talking about as far as Africa.
And let me just say this, and I don't disagree with you. Let me just say, in regards to what you just said, if Matt Gaetz had been Attorney General, I think it might have been actually better. Only thing I'm saying, for one reason, he would have been focused on prosecutions, which is national, and that would have tied him up to not be able to be involved in Secretary of State type of things, where now that he's not at that position, now Secretary of State, he'd be horrible. Like what you're saying, for the AES, it would have been the worst possible solution or decision. But it might have benefited us if he was in the Trump administration, focused on Hillary Clinton and various other people, trying to go after them, so that we wouldn't have him to be able to focus on the AES and other regions. In terms of Eric Prince, which goes to what you're just saying, with Matt Gaetz now not being in, Eric Prince is the guy. I don't know if he was the owner, or I think it was his company, Blackwater, and it now has a different name. It's a mercenary group that went to different conflicts the U.S. was involved in and killed people for the U.S. for money. Well, he's the same one that his groups, it's been reported to me from people in those countries, that they were some of the people that went and killed some of the people in Mali and some of the Russian troops, that he was involved in one way or the other with that. So his statement he made is, we're going to go recolonize Africa. It's time to recolonize Africa because they had bad leadership. But when we have good leadership, according to what I've heard and been informed of, he's involved in trying to kill the good leadership that we have in Africa. So when we talk recolonization, we're talking about the invasion and the subjugation and enslavement of African people and genocide. And he's talking about it from a direct perspective, not the Bill Gates backdoor mRNA technology type of way. He's talking about bombs and murder of black people.
Yes, sir. Oh, by the way, brother, I forgot. Tell people your Rumble page, because you put up that information on your Rumble page. Tell people your Rumble page.
You can go to I'm trying to think how to say it. JAT problem on Rumble. JAT problem. And you can go to Irritated Genie. Either one of those on Rumble. JAT problem or Irritated Genie. So if you want things on the hats, go to JAT problem. If you want things for black people, talking about just in general, talking about our people, go to Irritated Genie.
And even though I don't see her in the chat, I'm gonna say this, brother. Our sister Cindy said, when you gonna put some of your stuff on OTW2?
Did she actually say that, or you saying that?
No, I'm saying that for her. I'll say that.
She actually came and said she wanted to do it and told me, how that would work out and everything like that. I don't have a problem doing that anytime.
Okay. Yeah, because I'm sure she's gonna see this and then she's gonna be like, "Oh, DC, why didn't you tell me?" I'm like, "No, I sent you the link. You were doing what you were doing." Let me see. We got a couple of, brother. You ready for some super chats from the people?
Let's super chat. Let's do it.
All right. I'm gonna go ahead and start off with, brother, you got ripped off. Says, I was at my coffee spot today and I seen a Palestinian woman with her Yoruba male. I approached the male, told him about the book, and he got scared. That's not a shock. The Palestinian woman, I don't know how you knew she was Palestinian, brother, but she's probably trying to escape knowing what's going on. And you don't see him over there fighting. So that tells you what his stance is. He's just, taking advantage of what's available. You have anything to add to that, brother?
Yeah, I would say I agree with what you just said. And like we said, the construct through which the natural group of people would see the world has been systematically, in a very calculated manner, destroyed and decimated by this group, such that black people are not the only people who have been destroyed culturally. It's tremendous damage has been done to us. We call ourselves N-words. Not other people call us that. We call ourselves that. No other race calls themselves a racial epithet. So they got us worse than anybody psychologically. But in terms of culturally, they've destroyed everyone. Everyone's culture is gone into that black hole.
Brother, you and brother, you got ripped off. You just reminded me of something. To his point, we look up and what's the name? JD Vance, the vice president or incoming vice president. He's a, as far as I know, he's a white male. His wife is not white. And I saw Nick Fuentes one time, and he basically just kind of, he's a white nationalist. Now he's a white nationalist, and he basically was saying almost like apologetically or in a sad manner that, if we're going to be serious, we do have to get ourselves a white wife. We have to have a white woman. But he said it like, he didn't say it with any enthusiasm. Now he
said he said something to the effect, yeah, me too. I'd prefer, I'd like to have an Asian woman, but we got to have white women to make our race. Yeah, he said it with reluctance.
And I think that just goes to show your point that, of course, we look at our group, we see our situation, we see basically having almost come to physical blows with brothers over whether or not you should be with non-black women, and yet you look at people who claim to be white nationalists, and back in the day, I guess would have been in the Klan or something, and they're struggling. They're struggling to be racially loyal to their women. I mean, it just goes to show what you said, the cultural confusion that's going on around the world.
I'm gonna say you have. I talk on a regular basis with people who are aware of what's going on, and at this point, matter of fact, when I get off here, I'll be going to something probably in a short amount. It just started at 9. I'll be going there after I get off on this on Spaces JP conference. Again, you go to Spaces X Twitter and put in JP conference, and you'll go there. You'll see it be live. We do the Spaces, and we'll be talking about that issue. And the reality, let me just say this. Just like we have people who call themselves Pan-African, but they
right.
It's no different than people who are considered to be white nationalists. They have that same, question if they even want a woman in their groups, if the male wants a woman or not. And so even when I'm in that, there are people who make statements about LGBT or whatever, but I am the definitive voice, even amongst the JP conference where you have Middle Eastern people, white. I'm the definitive. This behavior is unacceptable. That's me. Like, just like you don't hear enough black people being definitive against this behavior, they don't have anybody I'm not saying nobody, but they're not that definitive against that. They might be definitive against the group that's attacking the whole planet, but they're not definitive in that man, woman, child. It's not that they don't disagree. A lot of them disagree with the behavior, but they're not going to be as definitive as we are.
Yeah, brother. I'm not even surprised at this point. Once you got me to kind of look at other groups from a standpoint of, yeah, these aren't people we like, but look at their situation. Once I started doing that and started going even outside the United States and looking at people's situation, that's when I'm really like, wow, okay, this is really crazy, because this group is because the fact that there's a whole Korean movement of women that don't want to be with men is not something I picked up on it before people started talking about it. But when I first looked at it, I was thinking to myself, how is this even possible? You know what I'm saying? Because we never, we don't see them and we don't hear those problems. But, in the era of the internet, everything goes everywhere. And I mean, in a way, you can make the argument that their situation is even worse because they're a group where it's just them in the country. And so there is no other options unless you're going to leave. So the fact that women are just like, okay, well, we just ain't going to be with nobody is, is maybe even a worse insanity, debatably. How do you see that, brother?
To your point, when we look at the map, we thought we getting beat up with this LGBT thing, which they are trying to push it. But when we look at the map from 2023, and they're showing who has folded to LGBT on the planet and who has not, the only place on the planet you see that is still giving strong resistance to the acceptance of this behavior is Eastern Rim of Africa. Like, the entire planet has surrendered to the acceptance of LGBT. The entire planet, except the Eastern Rim of Africa. We are the strongest resistance. That's the truth. I didn't make the map. I didn't even know it was like that.
Yeah, I remember you showed that in a couple of lectures, and people were shocked. Let me get to this question from a softball. He says, "Can progress truly be progress under an oppressor?" Hold up, my bad, brother. Let me put this up. Right, there we go. Can progress truly be progress under an oppressor? How would you answer that, brother?
I would say yes, but it depends on what you mean by progress. Can you let's say part of what you're doing is looking for a way to get out from under that oppressor. That could be progress. If you're saying, can you actually have sovereignty under the rulership of an oppressor? No. You can have progress means you can do better tomorrow than we were doing today, and better the next day than that. But if it's not moving towards sovereignty, then your question would be, how much progress is it? Not much. It's got to be moving towards sovereignty. And that's how you there's an excellent question. That's how you would measure progress. How much closer have we gotten to sovereignty? Baba Baruti teaches that. He made a big deal about sovereignty, and his brilliance is unfairly missed in the modern context. Baba Baruti is an absolute genius.
Yes, sir, brother. I picked back up Identity because it's sorely needed in this day and time. I don't know if I know you got it, but I don't know if you started reading it. I would. You say you haven't got started yet?
How good is it?
Oh no, it's excellent, bro. It's excellent. I got about halfway through it, and I'm picking it back up and starting over because we're actually even in a different space from when he wrote it, and it's only I think two maybe 3 years old. I would tell people go to acabinhouse.com if you haven't read any of Bob Baruti's works. You know, take your pick. That's what I'll say. Take your pick. I also recommend, especially in this day and time, every year reading K Buka, just to remember our ancestral trials and tribulations we went through to get to this space. I think one of the things that's happened, the breakup of the family even exacerbates the disconnection from our ancestors, because you don't have true grandmothers. And when I was a little boy, my great grandmother and great grandfather were still alive when I was a little small boy, maybe like 3-4 years old. And these people, they tell the stories and they tell the history, and I don't think people get that now. So you don't get the stories of, let's say you're in the North, only your grandmother, your great grandmother, or grandfather, or your great grandfather is going to tell you the real reason that you're not in the South. Your great grandfather, his father may have had to defend the family with a double barrel shotgun. And that's the reason why that's the reason you don't live in Mississippi anymore, or you don't live in Alabama, those places. And I think it's important for those stories to be kept and to be told and to be passed down, because we're very confused right now as a people. So again, for those that may have just joined us, I'm your host, DC Radical One. This is The Center. You can follow me on Instagram at dc.radical1, on Twitter at dcradical_one, or OTW2 at dcradical1. And you can donate via Cash App, $DC Radical 1. And you can email me at dc.radical_1 at protonmail.com. Brother. Oh, well, let me say this to the audience. Now is the time. If you have any questions that you want to super chat, the super chat is open while we're waiting for that. Waiting for those to come in. You have any other subject that you would like to broach in the meantime, brother?
No, I just, one thing I'd like to say about Dr. Khallid Abdul Muhammad, something that really stands out. There's a book called Khallid, written by attorney Malik Zulu Shabazz, who was a very close personal friend of Dr. Khallid Abdul Muhammad. One of the things that I just really appreciated that was in that book, he talked about how Dr. Khallid Abdul Muhammad was in Uganda working with Baba Idi Amin, Dada. And he's working with Baba Idi Amin, Dada. And Idi Amin was upset with the white oppression in South Africa and apartheid. He wanted to invade South Africa and put the whites out of South Africa. Dr. Khallid Abdul Muhammad was doing research and going, softening up the ground, lecturing, going around South Africa, getting the people hyped and ready for revolution. So I'm saying that to say, when we're remembering Dr. Khallid Abdul Muhammad, let us remember, we're not remembering a man just for his voice. He was a real-time hitter, like warrior, revolutionary, freedom fighter, a killer. He was prepared to go into South Africa when he was saying how Black people in South Africa should get their freedom. You know, get everyone that's in sight that ain't right, the women, the children, and the babies. He said, you know, put them down, dig them up, put them back down again. When he was saying these things, he wasn't joking. He wasn't a joker. And it's fortunate that we lived to be able to witness his brilliance and power and capacity. It's tragic that he was sold out and abandoned, and that he even left. I'm gonna be honest, no disrespect intended when I say this, but the reason he left Uganda and came to America was because Minister Farrakhan wanted him to help revitalize the nation. Honestly, and we can't do anything about it, but just truthfully, I think it would have served us better as a race of people, honestly, had he stayed. Because what happened to Amin may not have happened. And maybe Uganda would have organized and gone in to actually free the Black people in South Africa from apartheid, which I think the whole African continent would have benefited from that in retrospect. And maybe we would not have known him as Dr. Khallid Abdul Muhammad. He would have just been that Black general from America who was leading the mission to liberate the African continent. Honestly, as much as we benefited from him, maybe for the global benefit of African people, that might have been better. I don't know. I just wanted to put that out there, though, for people to know how much his value meant to our people.
You know, brother, when you get that perspective, it's really, you know, you put a different perspective, because it's really, and it's deep, because it's really hard to say, because our generation benefited greatly. Like, anybody that's from our generation that got to see Dr. Khallid, that's still doing the work, I'm gonna say 50% of those people, the reason they still doing the work was because of Dr. Khallid. Now, of course, you know, at that time, unlike today, we had many great leaders and teachers, Steve Coakley, Dr. Amos Wilson, of course, two giants, Dr. John Henry Clark and Dr. Yusuf Ben Yakin. Of course, we had Dr. Francis Cress Wilson, and so forth and so on. And that may even prove your point even more. Not that we could afford to not have the brother here, because I'm not going to say that, because he had a special connection to the youth that many other scholars didn't have. But when you put it like that, I really had to sit down and think, like, what, where was he more valuable? Because it's hard to gauge it now, because in today's age, you can sort of be everywhere. Like in today's world, a person doing that could still show you, I'm over here, we're putting in work here, and you could and then people could see it and be inspired. Where over there, because the world was much larger, because of technology was more limited, like people don't understand how much an international call back in those days, man, your mother wouldn't allow you to make no international calls. That was that was a major thing. And so brother, I'll probably be thinking about what you just said all night tonight. Brother, you got go ahead, bro.
Yeah, and then I know you're gonna say something, brother. You got ripped off. Said I'm looking at the comments. Somebody said the Ugandan military wasn't strong enough. Here's the thing. I wouldn't dispute anybody on this, because we don't looking back, we don't know who would have won or lost. What we know is this, though. If you got Dr. Khallid Abdul Muhammad and you got Uganda making the interest of invading South Africa in the interest of liberating the black people, a lot of the war is not the traditional military war, meaning that's why Dr. Khallid was on the ground. So you would have, usually it's a military going against a military. This would be different. It would have been a military going against a military, while at the same time, the people are a ground force fighting the people. So in other words, you got a minority of whites in South Africa ruling over the majority population, who would, for lack of a better term, be guerrilla forces. The men pick up sticks, stones, and to break the bones. And they wouldn't necessarily have to be fighting military. They just be fighting everyday white folks. Now, while they going and swarming everyday white folks we talking about millions. So, yeah, maybe the whites would have had some guns and been better armed enough. But when you got 10,000 Zulus running at you, you better have a lot of guns. You're going to have to run, or you're not going to make it. So it's like, and those wouldn't have been military. Those are everyday white folks. And then the military fighting Uganda, and the people swarming the people. It's like, well, what is the military fighting for? Well, it's fighting for the people to have rulership. But if the people being attacked by the people, while the military is fighting the military, the chances are the whites in South Africa would have had a bad situation. Now, I'm not saying that's the case. And even if Uganda didn't flat out win, it would have emboldened some other African nations. Hey, this might be our chance to get these white folks out. We just don't know. And I'm not disputing the person that said they didn't have a strong enough military. I'm just saying it wouldn't have been the standard traditional military conquest. It would have been where you have the vast majority of the population that you're invading the nation is on your side. So we don't know what could have happened.
You know what, brother? Speaking of that, you just reminded me of a situation. Last year we covered a couple of times the situation in Kenya with Mr. Ruto. Just talk about that situation real quick with what he's been doing and what the specifically the young people have been doing too. I know the list of stuff he's been doing is long, seem like it's something every week, but just get into that a little bit.
Yeah, I'll give a summary of the horror that he's doing. I saw an interview just today, actually, first time I saw this interview with a Kenyan farmer talking about the horror of what Ruto's administration is doing. He said, I, as a farmer, cannot sell my organic natural seeds or I will be arrested. We are being forced to replace them with GMOs, which means once we do this, no longer can I grow anything in my ground unless I go buy the seeds from somebody else. And Ruto is policing it, making it a crime for farmers in Kenya to grow their own food. Like that's just one of the things. He's sending military people over to Haiti to kill Haitians. He's just the worst scum. Like he's one. I would say Ruto is the worst scum. The African. We have a lot of scum that we've produced. I think worse than that mulatto Tipu Tip. The direction Ruto's going with the technology that exists and what he's willing to do to our people, there's not a lower skunk in African world history than Ruto. In terms of what the potential of what he's trying to do to our people. He's the worst scum we've ever produced.
That is unfortunately, there's a long list, a long list of traitors and scumbags that we produce. So to stand at the top of that heap, which means we're gonna have to start replacing the term Mobutu with Ruto, which is crazy because Mobutu has been holding that title for decades.
Wow.
Because as we know, his treachery against Patrice Lumumba, I mean, that it reverberates throughout Africa to this day. Like the state of the Congo is where it is because of Mr. Mobutu. And you're saying Mr. Ruto is even worse, which is...
I want people to understand. I know I just said it, but I want to say it again so people can understand. What traitor of our race can we say has supported preventing Black people from having the capacity to grow food?
Yeah, I can't think of anybody. It's hard to do worse than that because you basically condemning the people to enslavement or death.
Starvation.
And at 40 years after Thomas Sankara talked about we need to grow our own food because that's one of the ways they enslave us. And you like, oh, you're right. That is. So let's do that. That is, man, that is disgusting. So again, if anybody has any questions, we have nearly 50 people in here.
You said you were gonna go to a question from brother. You got ripped off.
Let me see, because he said, I'm trying to think what he said. Because now I got to go back and try to find it. But there's something that caught my eye while we were talking. Oh no, he said, can you mention the upcoming classes that you'll be giving?
Sure. So for years, people have always asked me, Brother Genie, you got to train somebody to do what you do. You got to teach someone to do what you do. And I've never actually done it. And now I think that I've gone beyond the point of the lectures. I'm a lecturer, but I'm a social architect now. And so, teaching the person social architecture, I never done it like formally. And so now I'm going to be doing online courses. We talked about the Straight Black Pride Movement University some years ago. I didn't get the tech right, but now with StreamYard and our capacity to do things now, I can do the courses and we can do it just like you're watching it now. You can participate in the course. We'll have all kinds of things. It's going to be, you can either do it single or you can do it as a group. It's going to be in March. It's going to be every Tuesday and Thursday in March. So Tuesday and Thursday evening at 7 p.m. Eastern time. It'll be 2 hours each Tuesday and Thursday from 7 to 9. And you're going to start the process of teaching people. It's our one-on-one course on social architecture, where you're going to learn, what do we mean by social architecture? What is it? How is it? And it basically tells you that if you look at what I do and what I've done and you appreciate it and you say you like it, then this is stuff you want to learn. If you want to learn how to write a lecture, how do you come up with a lecture? How do you do this? All of those type of things, not just lecturing, but the things that we're fighting and resisting. The whole work that you've seen Straight Black Pride do, Brother Conrad here, myself, we have openings and opportunities, and so we sent it out. If you're not on our email list, you know what? You can either follow us on my Facebook. I think I'll put this one out on Facebook. I'll put this out on Facebook where you can join and sign up. It's available now for people if you want to sign up. You can go to our social architects. You can go to waronthehorizon.com. That's our website, waronthehorizon.com. And then you'll see where we have the course that you can pick for our classes. Go in there and you can pay for the course. Again, it's an 8-class course. It'll start in March. I think it's March 3rd. I think it's the first day. It's the first Tuesday. And it's Tuesday and Thursday. So that'll be 8 courses, 8 classes. It's an $800 course for a single individual. It's $1,200. If you pay the $1,200, not only do you get the course and to participate, but you also get the entire electronic library. So all of my lectures that we have available now, you get the entire electronic library, which by itself is I think we do it online for $800 now. So you'll be paying just $400. You'll be just paying that $400 for it. You also would be able to do a family rate. So if you're going to have your whole family there, they can watch it. The family rate is $1,200 for the course. And that's to do the course. And that means the whole family can sit there on one screen and participate in the course. It'll be $1,200. Again, it's Tuesday and Thursday, 7 to 9. And if you want the entire course again, it'll be $1,600. So that'll be the whole family can watch, and you'll get one copy of the entire our entire course series will get emailed to you as well. So you'll have all of our lectures and everything. So for $1,600, and you'll get your whole family will be able to participate from one screen in one place, in one location in the house to participate in the course. So these are the different options we have. And you can go online to waronthehorizon.com and you can pay for the course and see what the course is about, or you can go, I'm going to put it up on Facebook. I'll start doing it there. And I send them out on our email list too. If you want to be on our email list, send us an email to liberation@waronthehorizon.com. Again, that's liberation@waronthehorizon.com. Send us an email. We'll go ahead and put you on our email list.
Yes, sir, brother. Yeah, that was important. Thank you, brother. You got ripped off. All right, so we got about 13 minutes, and I'm going to let you go, brother, because you said you had something else you had to do. I'll thank you now so I don't forget. Thank you for coming on and sharing this message with us and celebrating Dr. Khallid Abdul Muhammad Day with the people. So anybody that has a question that you want Brother Genie to ask, you got 12 and a half minutes. Don't do like y'all normally do, where you wait till 2 minutes before I'm about to get off and try to ask a question. The time to ask is now. You can ask for free, or you can ask via super chat. You ask via super chat, that's going to be answered first. I don't know.
I have a question for the people while they're waiting. I want to know, was this program informative and beneficial to the people that were listening? I always like to know how people take, these opportunities and how they take this discussion. If the people could just put in the chat, how did you feel about the discussion? Do you think it was valuable? Did it make sense to you?
Yes, sir, brother. Well, yeah, that is definitely, because I'm sure we got some people that they're just listening, they have it on and they're doing their thing. And now we're asking them to participate and they're looking around like, oh, where's my phone? Or where's my computer? Or I know some people, they put it on the TV. So you're like, oh, got it on the TV. Now what I do? Brother Rodney, he gave the thumbs up. Brother Kevin said yes. Everything is everything, said yes. Asafo says valuable. Hence, that's why he sent the super chat. Let's see. Ra said very informative, always, brother. And Jasiah says, any update on Haiti? So you want to speak on that, brother?
I've reached out to the general, and I'm not sure what's happened. I suspect he's in full-scale warfare down there. So I don't know if he's receiving the messages, if he has the same phone, or even if maybe for some reason he may not feel comfortable with talking because it's whatever the case may be. So I haven't had any direct communication with the general. The other brother, Clabert, my brother, copy paste. Copy paste, brother. Jean, I did talk, and he said things are going well. They're still fighting. So I don't know exactly what's happening. This is one thing I can say. The best update I can give. I didn't know how valuable. I did a video. I did a program. Some of you may have seen it, and I talked about what was happening in the Dominican Republic, and I put it in context. And then I showed the rape of the guy, the brother that they raped. But I put it in context from the how Haiti got founded, what's happening now, who's doing it, and I asked him, did this get around and was it valuable? He told me it was exceptionally valuable. He said he wished everybody was doing that. He said the reason being, he said it's not about how many people saw it. He said people saw it, and the way you describe General Barbecue as general and explain why he was doing what he was doing, and your explanation of what was happening in Dominican Republic and Haiti and what they were going through, he said it made people who had means to help want to reach out and start reaching out and helping. So for that, I just want to let people know, so I can say this, that your participation and watching and sharing the message and us getting General Barbecue's information out to the world and to people has helped him get more interviews. More people are talking about it. And the Guatemala has just sent more troops in there. Jamaica has troops. Belize has troops. So they're in a fight. It's a war right now. While we're sitting there talking on this discussion, our Haitian brothers and sisters are straight up urban warfare for their sovereignty. That's what I can say.
Yeah, brother. First of all, I want to thank you for even giving that brother a platform to speak, because the information that we were getting here on Haiti, of course, was just sheer anti-Black propaganda. And we even saw it, during the election. So you giving that brother a platform and allowing us to hear him and allowing him to speak to the world, I'm sure that was very valuable. And I'm glad that they at least had people to reach out and try to help. Because I didn't even know Guatemala. I knew about Jamaica, but I didn't even know about Guatemala. So it's just amazing to me that our enemies can always find someone to do their dirty work and to hide their hand. I'll say that. Let's see. Neo Geo says, what are some main things we need to be building on the continent?
Excellent question. Now, and if you can say this, because it's a question for me to give a precise answer. Are you talking about the brothers and sisters on the continent building on the continent, or are you talking about brothers and sisters from the U.S. going to help support build? I just want to make sure which context you're talking about. If you could answer that, just are you talking about what they should be building for Africa, our brothers and sisters there that are already there, or are you saying what we should be helping build in Africa? I just want to get that clarity.
Okay.
From the U.S.
From the U.S.
Yeah. Okay. What I think we would build that would be the most important is a socio-economic link with the AES. Meaning what? Meaning they have shea butter. Like that's that region, those between Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger, they got all the shea butter you need. They have mangoes. They have all kind of textile. I didn't know that they are manufacturing from the cotton, like from scratch cotton. They're growing their own textiles and cotton industries. I didn't know this. So if we go and we need to go, because I have video where the brother from Mali said, you're invited. We want you to come make profit. Like they're like, we want you to make profit. Like come and let's do some development and you can make profit. We need to go over and think about the things here that we need. Do we need soaps? Do we need things that we want to be built from scratch? They have the natural resource and they're already building these things. Go over and then industrialize it to bring it here. Help them industrialize to bring it here. So they're not only selling it where they're selling it around the world, but we're bringing it here. Then what we can do is that we can start using that relationship to create jobs and industry for our people here. We can fight poverty by not just relying on this government to do something, but we can create our own industry. And in doing so, the political interest is this. Once we're in communities where our dollars are making sense because we're partnered with African nations that are moving towards their sovereignty, now, think about it like this. Whatever amount you're making right now, let's assume you're making 50,000 or maybe a little bit more, a little bit less. If you were making $300,000 a year for the last 3 years, now having worked with this nation, and that's what you're doing with your family and your friends, and you're doing things. If you find out that this nation is trying to decide whether to make these nations in their sovereignty, consider them terrorist nations or give negative labels, how much is that going to incentivize you to get political here and say, no, 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 no. These nations are good nations. We have good working relationship with them. And the beautiful thing is we're American citizens. So it's not like we're American citizens. So we have great relationships there. So we know they're not terrorist nations. We would be able to help protect their move to develop greater sovereignty by being involved with them economically. Dollars make sense. We can talk about loving our African brothers and sisters, all that. That sound good. When it's putting food on the table, then it counts. And we got to get over there and build that relationship. They say, what do we build? That's what we need to build, that relationship where the dollars are making sense.
I like to add to that real quick, brother, that if you put that type of thing in place, at that point, then you could take those dollars to, you can affect people politically by having a lobbying group that simply protects your interests like every other group of people does. Right now, we have very few lobbying groups that have Black people's interests at heart. I actually went and looked that up and I found a couple, and let's just say they aren't led by people that we would think of as being interested in true African sovereignty, nor in true advancement for Black people here. Before they straight Black pride of brother Sa, not gonna lie, did not expect to see him step in, but
my brother,
we appreciate you, brother.
Hey, look, y'all can't have. I'm letting y'all know. I know y'all want them. Unless you're a woman, you can have them like that. But I'm saying, like, that's my brother. You can't have. That's my brother. Then you could be like the second or third, cousin or something. That's my brother, brother Sa. Yes, sir.
Sister Najee asked a question that's probably better to be answered in Baltimore in person. I'll just say that. I don't know if you see that question, brother, but that's more of a behind the scenes question than an out in public question, in my humble opinion. Let's see. Yeah, brother, you got ripped off. Thanks for letting people know. We almost out of time, and unless I'm gonna give brother Kevin his question, anything after that will have to be made via super chat. Other than that, we'll close out. He said, "What's your opinion of the attack on Trump Tower and the New Orleans situation?"
All right, I'm gonna tell people this, and let me say before I say it, this is purely 100%. 100% is a guess. So, matter of fact, let me say this before I say this because I won't forget. The brother just asked about the tour. Am I still doing the tour? Absolutely. We were doing a tour, and I'll tell people in the month of February where we'll be and where they can go find it. If you go to Facebook, Ayo Kimathi. Facebook, Ayo Kimathi. I always post when the next lecture is. The next one will. So we got an event coming up January 25th where we're going to be talking about preparing for the next situation where people getting sick. because we think something in the next 60 days, I presume it could happen and lockdowns could occur. I'm not sure, but we have an event in Baltimore, January 25th. Again, you can go to Facebook, Ayo Kimathi, and see that. In February, right now we have 3 dates booked. We have February 1st. I'll be in Houston, Texas at the Shrine of the Black Madonna. February 15th, we'll be in Norfolk, Virginia at the House of Consciousness. February 22nd, we'll be in Charlotte, North Carolina, or right in South Carolina, right by Charlotte, North Carolina on February 22nd. So those are the 3 dates that we have locked in. The only date we have available right now is February 8th, I think, that we have open. So with that said, go and answering this brother's question, the Trump thing. I have no information to base this on. It's just based on my assessment of what's going on in the world and observation. I believe the Trump Towers was a message from Mossad. The guy shot, they say he was shot in the head, but people that knew him said it's unlikely he would have shot himself in the head. One way or the other, he was supposed to, and then they said they never exactly, I don't know if they ever matched him for sure to be the guy. My thing is, what happened is it was a message from Mossad to say 2 things. Yeah, we let you get in office, or you ducked the assassination attempt. Yeah, you're gonna be commander in chief, but listen here, boy. That's why they did it at Trump Tower. We will reach you any place, anytime we want to. Here's your military folks, your folks from your military bases. They got a bullet in their head and they in a Tesla and it's blowing up. We can do whatever we want to you, whenever we want, how. You do what you're told. And secondly, to Elon Musk, yeah, I know you think you running with, you the richest man in the world and you running with Trump, but let me make sure you know something. You saw what we did with those walkie-talkies with Hezbollah and they blew up. We had those explosives in there for years. Do you know what's in each of your Teslas, in the batteries, in the electronic systems in your Teslas? Do you know what companies we own that may have had something to do with producing your Teslas? If you don't want to go belly up bankrupt, you make sure you mind yourself, boy. Because if you get out of line, maybe Teslas will start blowing up. And maybe you'll have to pull all of them. That's what I felt like that message was. Look, we got y'all. We own you. Do as you're told, and don't get fancy. Don't get beside yourself. That's my opinion.
Yeah, brother, and I have to agree. When you mentioned it and we talked about it, I was like, yeah, that makes sense. And of course, you showed on your Rumble page, you showed the documentation, the interview with Mossad, talking about how they did the situation with the pagers and the walkie-talkies against Hamas. So I'm gonna give, against Hezbollah, right? Mm-hmm. By the way, I heard that Hamas has rebounded and was able to take out about a dozen or 15 IDF fighters in the latest counteroffensive. So I just wanted to put that on the table for those that, I know we haven't been covering that as much lately with the fall of Syria and everything. We will, I'll probably do one more center before I take some time off. So we'll probably cover that situation. I also need to see what's going on in the Sudan. You have any information on the Sudan, brother, before we close out?
Yeah, the thing that I had when I had the brother on talking about the Sudan, he told me that basically the Sudan is a situation with 2 groups of black people who think they Arabs. Neither one of them are good. They fighting each other and they getting the people to kill each other over their fight. Like, it's not there are political interests of other groups and everything like this, but basically this is just an internal rot, decay, corrupt 2 guys fighting and getting people to kill each other based on that. It's not anything to give a a deep political assessment to pick sides, because it's just two guys fighting over. Neither one of them is really caring about the best interests of Sudan.
Okay, well, brother, that's unfortunate. That's pretty much what I had heard, but I just wanted to see if you had any contrary information. Um, you know, I mean, we've seen it here for years. I was looking at some videos, had some LA gang members or maybe former gang members who are around our age, and they just talk, just talking about that life. And all I thought about is just the thousands of brothers who lost their life fighting each other over nothing at all. And so that, I try to tell brothers not to go off on a tangent, but when I see these people, blaming the sisters for X, Y, Z, and ABC, I don't know why people act like black men haven't been complicit. Even you can discuss how people got tricked into it and stuff, but we haven't been complicit in our own destruction for 2-3 generations. Like, I don't know why we act like that stuff hasn't happened. The gang's been around in LA, what, 70s? In Chicago since the 70s. You can turn on the news in DC, still see, even though the city's been gentrified, you can still see black people shooting each other in Southeast, which is the only black part, almost the only black part of the city left. So when you talk about what's going on in Sudan, it's sad that that's something that we can easily relate to. You wish it was something deeper, more political. One side was right. Somebody was trying to do the right thing, and anything like that, but it is some old Negro stuff. I think it shows the importance of identity. I can't remember one of the African leaders. He basically said, "I hate to tell you guys, but you're not Arabs." He just straight out, and we really have to get our people to see the beauty of being a black African person on this planet, because it really can be a beautiful thing, and we can be a beautiful people if we just accept, as Elijah Muhammad said, accept our own and be ourselves. You have something to add to that, brother?
Yeah. And because it goes and connects with what people were asking me here about the AES. And I think it's the cherry on top, and then I'm out. In conjunction with what Brother Conrad just said, I really believe strongly that with the direction that the AES is going, when we partner economically, socioeconomically, become the voice for cheering on the great work that they're doing in the AES, and economically partnering in business with them, that once we begin to thrive because of it, Black people will see 3 thriving nations lifting themselves up, and the people who are associated with them lifting themselves up. I believe that is a formula for people to look at and start being proud to be African again. I don't know if we got to keep the books coming and push them, but I don't know if it's going to come out of the books. I don't know if it's going to come out of the education system. That's part of it. I really think that love for ourselves is going to come when we actively produce for our people. Black men operate with power and dignity. We remove this language system of disrupting and disrespecting each other, and we don't tolerate abuse. And we operate with power and cooperation. Then we will once again demand the respect from our women, and they will be glad to respect us because we'll have something to show for it. We got to take power again, and I think we're in the space to do it. Let's do it. Thank you, brother, for this opportunity. It's been magnificent. Praise Nat Turner, glory to Garvey. Long live the spirit of Dr. Khallid Abdul Muhammad.
Yes, sir, brother. Thank you so much. for coming on tonight and really honoring Dr. Khallid. I'm sure that he would greatly appreciate it. And I thank everybody for coming in and watching the show. I'm going to say this. Don't be a stranger. Don't be the type of people that only show up when our brother Irritated Genie is here. Again, I am your host, DC Radical One. This is the center. You can follow me on Instagram at dc.radical1, on Twitter at dcradical_one, at on OTW2, which is a Black-owned platform, at DC Radical One. And if you have enjoyed the program and want to support, you can support monetarily via Cashapp at $ DC Radical One. And also, don't forget to check out the link will be in the description for the event. In fact, let me bring it up. The event on the 25th, Saturday, January 25th in Baltimore at Terra Cafe. It's $25 at the door and also $25 via Eventbrite. So with that, brothers and sisters, I thank you all for listening. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. This is DC Radical One. With that, I say a BB for Odie and straight black pride. Thank you for watching this video. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Also follow us on our other social media platforms. On Instagram, we're at dc.radical1. On Twitter, we're at dc_radical_one. And the Cash App is $ DC Radical One. Again, thank you for subscribing. A BB for ODA and straight black pride.